were searching for my name today, I saw you standing there. Man, you look different with that silver in your hair. Me, I haven't aged a bit, still all of 21. That's the thing about us spirits, we're forever young at the wall. Here at the wall, we were proud to serve our country when called by Uncle Sam. Then more than a little anxious when they shipped us off to Nam. Remember all the heat and bugs, days marching through the mud, constant gunfire, smell of death, sight of all that blood. Some gave all. The names carved in this wall, but it's a wall of love, a wall that heals, a wall that touches, helps you feel the faces of more.
Happy 2022. I am Joe Bacino, the host of the 18th Airborne Corps podcast. This is our first episode of the new year, and this is a serious topic. If you listen to the show regularly, you know we've done many episodes on the Vietnam War. We've done a long episode on the Battle for Hamburger Hill. We've talked about William Westmoreland, who commanded all forces in Vietnam. Talked about the Kent State shooting, the anti-war protests, the 1968 Tet Offensive. We've had a few episodes on President Nixon's handling of the war. And perhaps you can consider this episode a piece with those, because this is about the Vietnam War Memorial. And I visited the memorial again over the holiday break as I picked up my daughter from school in Virginia. And it's something that is part of the story of the American war in Vietnam. We ask a lot of our memorials in this country. They offer us a place to mourn. They give us a national identity. They bring us together. They guide us in considering critical events, traumatic events, wars. And I think we ask a lot of the Vietnam Memorial. The memorial's on the D.C. Mall. It's between the Lincoln Memorial and the Washington Monument, of course. More than 4 million people visit that memorial every year. Before COVID, that is. The numbers are fewer than that now. Nonetheless, it's still a major site, a major attraction in this country. So, if you know the memorial, I will very briefly describe the memorial here. It's an elegant design, and the substance of the memorial is the names carved into it. Our Vietnam War Memorial, it's 2 elongated triangles of black marble. The marble's reflective. The memorial is 493 feet and 6 inches long. And it descends into the ground. As you walk down the path, as you walk down the names, you walk into the earth. There are more than 58,000 names of American service members killed in the Vietnam War on that memorial. We sometimes refer to it as a wall, although the designer, Maya Lin, who we'll talk about here, never considered it to be a wall. Those names are listed in chronological order by date of casualty. The names begin and end at the center, with the first service members killed in 1959. The final service member killed in 1975 is also at the center. Beginning and ending in the center forms a completion to the war. To me, it ties together every man and woman killed in that war. Of course, there was no declaration of war in Vietnam. For America, the Vietnam War never really started, and it never really ended. That war, of course, was mired in deceit, But here, those men and women are remembered without any of the lies and distortions associated with that conflict in this country. The beginning, of course, was mired in controversy. The end was a national humiliation. Dale Buis is the first name on that wall. He was killed on July 8th, 1959. Buis is an Army major from Pender, Nebraska. He was killed by Viet Cong fighters in a mess hall in Vietnam. And, of course, he was a military advisor. This was before we acknowledged combat troops in that country. The final name, Richard Vandegeer, an Air Force second lieutenant. Richard was a pilot who died after his CH-53 helicopter crashed on May 15th, 1975, during our war in Vietnam's final combat action. Dale Buis and Richard Vandegeer, along with the 58,279 American service members who died in between them, are connected. In my mind, they are tied together on that memorial. We don't really think of the Vietnam War Memorial as a source of controversy today. And a lot of people don't realize that it was extremely controversial in its day. And I guess that's appropriate. Everything associated with this war was so polarizing, so mired in dispute. That controversy is part of the story I want to tell on this episode. The two main characters in our story today, a man named Jan Scruggs and a woman who've already referred to, Maya Lin. Taking a cue from Ira Glass and This American Life, this is a story in 5 acts. Let's begin.
There's something happening here. What it is ain't exactly clear. There's a man with a gun over there, telling me I got to beware. I think it's time we stop, children. What's that sound? Everybody look what's going down.
Act 1, The War at Home. Beginning in 1968, Vietnam was polarizing this country, dividing this country. American cities and towns exploded, melted down over this issue. That continued right up until January 1973 and beyond. Of course, January 1973, a peace agreement formally ends the hostilities, although the fighting continued. Our involvement did not. April 30th, 1975, Saigon falls to the north. The South can no longer be saved. The communist forces win. Henry Kissinger, President Ford's Secretary of State, although he's obviously more closely associated with Richard Nixon, but Henry Kissinger publicly says that we need to put the Vietnam War behind us. And this is right after Saigon falls. In other words, forget it. It's over. It was a disaster. To many of the men who fought there, that was a terrible message. The message coming from the top of the American government: we need to move on from you. 1978, the Vietnam War is over, but a new war within the United States to make sense of our experience there begins. This is the year that The Deer Hunter is released. And I just rewatched The Deer Hunter 2 nights ago for this episode, and, it is very hard to watch. Now, there's disputes about the accuracy of some elements of that movie, but in the movie, Vietnam veterans are depicted as wounded figures. 1979, of course, Apocalypse Now is released. Soldiers are murderers, drug addicts, out of control. And at this point, the war is considered a great shame on the country. William Calley is known as the architect of the My Lai massacre. He's a well-known figure now. Americans are reading about drug use in the war, about fragging, about racism. And our Vietnam veterans are the subject of scorn, for the most part. So 1979, President Jimmy Carter wants to address this. He declares May 28th to June 3rd in 1979 Vietnam Veterans Week. Of course, this was timed with Memorial Day, which was Monday, May 28th, 1979. And on that Monday, May 28th, Jimmy Carter meets with 400 Vietnam veterans at the White House, and he pledges to support a study of the impact of Agent Orange. Agent Orange, of course, the defoliant that harmed so many Vietnamese and so many American soldiers. In that group of 400 Vietnam veterans is a man named Jan Scruggs, who at the time was attending grad school at American University in D.C. Jan was a Vietnam veteran who was injured in the war. After watching The Deer Hunter, the film, he resolved that those who died in Vietnam needed a memorial. And this is where this story becomes very inspiring. So you consider that from this moment, May 1979 to November 13th, 1982, the Vietnam Memorial went from an idea in this veteran's mind to an actual national dedication, which is lightning speed for something like that to move in this country. So May 28th, 1979, Jan Scruggs is in this group, and he formalizes his idea a little more fully, that we will have a memorial on the National Mall. The National Mall was the site of some of the largest anti-war protests, so it felt appropriate to him. And when you think about coming home from Vietnam, when I think about it, for the most part, everyone redeployed alone. Soldiers deployed individually, filling units in theater, and they just came home individually. And when they came home, there were no parades. There were very few unit redeployments. There were no redeployment ceremonies like we have today, where bands and families greet us, and there's a commander there greeting us. They just flew